Let me just tell you briefly that, you know what, number one, let me say this so to be sure there's no confusion at all. I gave 2 speeches this morning and I enjoyed it all, and at the end of the speech, one lady came up to me and she said, Beth Ann, did you actually announce that you were running for the United States Congress? So let me just make it clear. I am, as of today, an official candidate for the United States Congress of the 4th Congressional District. And I'm so tickled to come here today and to have you all be a part of that with me. But let me tell you why I'm running, and I'm not going to hold you hostage for long, but I want you to be able to speak with me and to share this message as people ask you, what is it about the Rankin campaign? What does Beth Ann believe? What is the motivation, the inspiration behind this grassroots effort that has really blossomed and bloomed over time? And I want you to be armed with that information so that you'll know what it is this campaign represents. And I know that that's what makes kindred spirits out of us all. Number one, we believe that with the crisis that this country is facing right now, with a $14.4 trillion national debt, keep in mind, trillion is 13 zeros. Just picture that for a minute. Let all those zeros run along. They fall off the page. 13 zeros just for 1 trillion, and we're at $14.4 trillion of national debt. Not only that, but they've just raised the debt limit so they can spend some more, to the tune of $2.4 trillion just over the next 24 months alone. When we are continually running our country financially into the ground like that, my friend, I just believe that that is not the type of patriotism, that is not the type of spirit that made this country great. We've got to do more in this country to keep America on a solid financial footing. This government is spending money that the young people of this country have not even grown up to earn yet. And they are spending it like there is no tomorrow. And for some of these future generations, if we don't stand up and fight, then their American tomorrow will look very different than the American that we had. And we've got to stand forward, and we've got to make that message clear and vibrant and powerful. Because if we don't speak out, I don't know who will. We've got to take that message to Washington, D.C. Secondly, we've got to fight for a balanced budget amendment. I tell you what, don't tell this Arkansas girl that it can't be done. We do it right here in the state of Arkansas, and we've been doing it in the state of Arkansas. Now, here's the sad reality. Why did the state of Arkansas get a balanced budget amendment? This isn't going to make anybody happy, but the state of Arkansas defaulted more than once. That's why the leadership in the state of Arkansas finally stepped up in the 1930s and they passed a balanced budget amendment. It is critical. The state of Arkansas recognized that it was necessary literally to save us from ourselves, from this addiction to spending. And you know what? Arkansas is strong financially today. We are solvent, we are strong, we are well conditioned for the future, and there are years that go by that we actually have a rainy day fund in this state, and that's because they've learned how to balance a budget in the city of Little Rock, in the Arkansas state capital. And I think it's time we send an Arkansas representative to Washington, D.C. to teach them how to do that. It's time that they learned how to balance a budget, but it's going to require a balanced budget amendment. And that means that the people of America have got to continue talking about this because it requires the ratification of 37 states. It's a big deal to amend the United States Constitution, and we've got to speak on this with one voice and a single spirit with that to be sure that that message gets through strong and clear. You know, with the recent downgrade by Standard & Poor's, it's not a laughing matter. It is not a laughing matter. And we can look across 7,000 miles across the ocean, and we can look into Europe, and we can see the crystal ball of what is awaiting us if we don't get serious about getting America's fiscal house in order. It is critical that we make these important decisions and we take these critical steps to getting us back on the right track financially. That is a very important step. Let me say quickly, I am pro-life. I believe strongly in the sanctity of life. I made my first statement on that 22 years ago. And I will continue to stand by that. Last year, I had the official endorsement of Arkansas Right to Life, and I will continue to be a voice for the unborn for as long as there is breath in my body. I will continue to be a voice for the sanctity and the love for life. Let me say as well, let's just talk about Second Amendment for a second. You know, I got asked the other day how I felt about Second Amendment, and I said, are you listening? Because this won't take long. I said, number one, the Second Amendment was written for the people of the United States. It wasn't written for the government. It was written for the people of the United States. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at history, when you see in the Revolution that they called up the militia, and even in the War of 1812, when they got the folks to come in and defend this country, guess what? The people brought their own weapons. The government didn't supply the weapons. The government didn't have any weapons. The people of the United States were armed and ready to defend themselves, and did they ever do the job? So it is critical that we send a message that, you know what, you will never disarm the 4th District of Arkansas, and we will stand by that for as long as there's breath in all of our bodies, and we know that that is true. I am a life member of the National Rifle Association and a proud gun owner, and so those will be some fundamental rights that we step out and we speak up for and continuously continue to do that. Let me say as well about national defense, national security. I know many of you, I won't embarrass him, but my younger brother John is here today. My older brother as well is in the Arkansas National Guard. So this is personal to me. We've got to be sure we stand by our soldiers. We stand by our veterans once they come home. They have stood by us. We've got to make a promise that we will stand by them and we will support them both during their tour and once they come back home. That is a critical thing. They have fought for our freedom, and then when they come home, we need to fight for them. And that's how strongly I feel about that. As well, we also need to know that, you know what? Here's what I find interesting. The federal government wants to get in every business in the world, doesn't it? I mean, of yours. It wants to get in the business of the banking business. It wants to get in the business of healthcare business. It wants to get in the business of student loans. It wants to get in the business of what kind of light bulbs you can have in your lamps in your bathroom at home. It wants to get in every business in the world except the business, the one business that the Constitution requires of the federal government, and that is to provide for the national defense. Secure this border, know who is in this country, and if we have to build a fence, I know some Arkansas boys that can go down there and show them how to do that. And I think that's a critical component, that we secure this country from the inside out. Now, as we are speaking about securing the country, this also means, again, it comes back to the economic certainty. How can we send America's sons and daughters across the ocean to fight 2 wars in 2 different countries, to fight the threats from the outside in, when we don't have the political will and the fortitude and the spine to make the tough decisions on Capitol Hill to keep this country strong from the inside out, and to keep this country from going belly up and bankrupt, because we're going to become Europe if we don't make smarter decisions on how we face the fiscal crises that we are looking at in this country, again, with that $14.4 trillion national debt. So the stakes are high, and we've got to do all we can to keep pushing forward and to keep doing that job and taking the conservative message forward. Let me just tell you, as I conclude today, you know, we've got an interesting phrase that's going on around out there that's saying that there's a segment of the population that pays 0 taxes. I'm yet to meet anyone that pays 0 taxes, and someone gave this in a speech, and I borrowed it from them because I think this is really fascinating. Because listen to this, it says, when you wake up in the morning and you drink your cup of coffee, you have paid a sales tax. When you start your car, you paid your automobile tax. When you drive to work, you've got the gas tax. At work, you pay the income tax, the payroll tax, the FICA tax, and the FEDA tax. You get home and you open your door, guess what? You pay the property tax. You flip on the light, there's an electricity tax. You turn on the TV, there's a cable tax. You make a telephone call, there's a utility and user fee tax. You brush your teeth, there's a water tax. And Lord have mercy, if you expire before you wake, you have the death tax. So don't tell me that there is a single living, breathing American citizen that doesn't pay their taxes. We are taxed at every turn. These are the hidden taxes. We don't even realize we're paying all of these taxes. When's the last time you got your cell phone bill and actually looked at it? or any bill and actually looked at it. There are infused taxes everywhere. What I'm saying is not that we resent paying the taxes that it takes to build roads, to pay for our law enforcement, to keep our streets safe, to have the education free and available for everyone, regardless of socioeconomic background. What I'm saying is when the government takes that money and they waste it, we have a problem with that. When they are not good stewards of the nation's treasury, when they squander our gifts that we give them, that we have gotten up all day and labored for, that is when we have a problem. We want to be sure that the federal government hears us. Be good stewards of our gifts that we're giving you. Use it well, like we have to in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our churches. We all have to be good stewards. And it's time the federal government did the same. As I close today, I thought that it would be pretty special to actually read a letter that I received immediately after the election last year. And this meant a lot to me. You know, number one, just to get an old-fashioned letter is pretty rare. Everything's email and texting and Facebooking. And so to get an actual letter that someone took the time to sit down and write, that meant a lot to me. And I wanted to just share this story to you because I have kept this since, I guess, the election was November 2nd. I must have gotten it about November 5th or 6th. But it's from a gentleman in Texarkana, and he says, "Dear Beth Ann, my son Jackson, who is 6 years old, just could not believe that you did not win. He said, 'Dad, we should have kept going.' He was referring to Monday afternoon, the day before the election on November the 1st. That Monday afternoon, we were going door to door, but it quickly turned to evening. As it began to grow dark, I told him, 'We better go home now, Jackson.' And just yesterday, with the results of the election being clear, he explained to me, 'Dad, we should have continued on into the night.' The dad said, 'He is a true blessing from the Lord, and hopefully we will have another opportunity to help you.' I had never met that child until today at noon when I stopped in Texarkana, and I had this note with me, and he was there. And what a neat thing, because I had saved that letter because it meant so much to me, because I'm asking you to remember, I know this Republican primary is going to have a lot of candidates in it this year. They're coming in from all over the place to run for this open seat because it's an open seat. But what I ask that you remember about me when you step into the ballot box next May the 22nd on the Republican primary is remember that there was one that was willing to stand up and face a giant last year. Remember that there was one that ran when it wasn't easy, and ran when it wasn't open, and ran when it wasn't the trendy, popular, or easy thing to do, but that I had the courage to face a giant. And I want you to know that that's the kind of courage that I pledge to you, I would take to Washington, D.C., that I will stand up for you, and I will fight for the 4th District, Arkansas, as a 7th-generation South Arkansan. I will fight for what we love and we believe, the Christian principles that have built this country and the bedrock upon which we are founded. I will fight for those principles in the United States Congress, and I'm asking you, let's don't stop. Let's keep going in the night. Let's keep the faith and keep the race going until next May the 22nd in the Republican primary, and then take it on to the general election next fall, and let's go to the United States Congress. Thank you, everybody. God bless you, and thank you for coming out today. And I'll stick around and visit for as long as you can stand it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Beth Ann. Thank you, Beth Ann. Again, we're very proud.